Hey, it's Kulipup here again, and this is, of course, part 2 in the Know Your Entities. Okay, so we've went through how you can actually know it's an entity, and through that, just to recap their language, how they speak to you, what they say to you, and knowing the difference between, of course, your spirit and how your spirit speaks to you or communicates with you versus an entity. So that's one way, language. Again, entities, you can expect them to do a lot of coercion. You can expect them to do to tell you things that you want to hear, only to crush you later with it. It's always letting you kind of give in to some things or being too strict on other things. And you start, when you take the advice of your entity, when you do not pay attention to their language and you don't understand them, you start to feel the consequences of the coerced information, right? You start to you don't feel very good anymore. You find that you don't find life as happy anymore. You don't find the joy in feeling lighter, and you just start to feel heavier. And it can happen in a blink of an eye, really. Like all of a sudden you were just on the top of the world raising frequency, and now you're just like, why don't I enjoy it anymore? So again, listening to the language that is coming through or the visions that you are being given, you have to really pick apart and use your wits and understand what's going on. Another way that recapping again, another way that you know is through feeling. That you feel the deception. The higher frequency you raise, the more you are aligned with the love frequency, and the stronger your feelings towards deception will be. Mine are again really, really, really strong. But you're going to get those feelings that like just something isn't right. And all I can say is if you get that feeling, investigate it. Okay, you have to investigate it and look at all possibilities and so forth. Because once you call it out, once you know it for what it is, you can then make the appropriate actions to get rid of it. Right? So again, you're going to have these feelings. Make sure that you are not ignoring your feelings. If something doesn't feel right, and it doesn't feel right in your heart, get rid of it. Or acknowledge it and look into it. Okay, so that's so number 1, we need to know it's an entity. 2, how does it live? How does it live? How does it survive? When an entity is drawing energy from you, what is its ways of doing it? So, let's have a look here. When you are, and again, these are lessons for people who have reached level 2 and above, where your entity, your subconscious entity, is directly trying to lower your frequency. So, one way that your entity survives is through the transfer of energy. The biggest way is sex or orgasmic. Okay, or orgasmic energy. So, a little bit about how that's going to come about, or is you have to understand what the male and female do. So the male energy, and if you think about it, this is from the lower levels all the way up to the higher levels too. When you're in the lower levels, it is advised not to have sex loosely with anybody and everybody, only because every time you have sex, it takes away energy. To have a physical orgasm produces a lot of energy in your sacrum. Okay, everything gathers, and it's a lot of physical energy. That's why a lot of people feel tired after sex. Their legs feel jiggly and they feel drained, and they're like, oh, I just want to lie down. It's because you've taken that much energy. Now, if you're already lower energy, you don't really want to have a lot of sex unless you are generating with a specific twin flame. But everybody else, you will lose energy until you get into the higher levels. Now, there is both a male and female aspect of this. So, if you are a male, You need to expunge, you need to let go your energy. So when you have sex as an orgasm, that's why you shoot out like lots and lots and lots. You do that on an ethereal level as well. It's not just the physical ejaculation that comes off. You are putting out ethereal energy at the same time, expending a lot. So if you're a male and you have an entity, well, here's the other thing. Well, your entity is going to encourage you to have a lot of sex, or is going to give you feelings of and thoughts of, yeah, let's go get it in. And the reason being is because the female, I want to say portal. Well, of course it is your vagina, but it is also a place of access to get to your sanctum. And that is where you will be creating a lot of energy, because females, we take the energy from the men. Okay? And that's how we take the energy, so we can nurture new life. All right? So we can literally nurture a baby. Now, that's in just the physical. When it comes to the ethereal, women, when we have sex over, or when we orgasm over a certain level, we will produce energy, that love, that feeling, especially the thoughts that are attached to it, those feelings of just being in love, of being caressed, of being just cared for, generate thoughts and emotions of love. And when you are on your love frequency, you generate more power. So when we orgasm, we generate a shitload of power in the higher levels. So of course you can think an entity, if you're a dude, that's what he wants to get into, because every time you go in and you generate that energy, that entity is then through you going to absorb the energy from your female counterpart. All right, you are going to absorb all that energy. And so that's why then we don't have energy for us to nurture. So from a male perspective, you're going to feel a little extra horny, a little more, yeah, I want to get this in. Because the more you are on your love frequency, the more that's going to happen. Now, if you don't counter your entity, what's going to happen is it's going to want, it works two ways, right? Because if you as a guy are having sex all the time, you are going to lose out more energy than you are able to generate and bring back in. And if you're a female who is having sex with an entity, or through having sex with your partner, but an entity is attached to your partner, you will be having your energy taken away. That does have a thing to do with fertility as well. If you want to look at it in the physical lower levels, if you don't have enough energy and you do have this entity that's attaching and feeding off of you, that can mess with your fertility. But these are all things that we can go into on another day. This is just for their eating. So they're going to want to get to you through increased libido. Yes, increased libido. Now, if you're a female, sorry, so this is just based off the sexual part. If you are a female, what it's going to do is it's going to try to flatter the shit out of you. Because it knows that to trigger a female to want to have sex or have intercourse, because we're so connected in our minds, you can't come up to us and just be like, have sex. And we're going to be like, yeah, sure. Open it all up. No, of course not. Females, on the other hand, we need to be seduced. So what you are going to find your subconscious will do is they will flatter the hell out of you. They're going to try to manipulate and coerce their way into your bed so that they can take your energy. Now, if your entity has infiltrated your own vessel or the vessel of your spirit, so for example, if your entity is if you're a female and your spirit is a dude, your higher self is a man, he's going to say things to you like, you're the most beautiful thing I've ever seen in the world. Oh, I love you so much. Will you be my wife? That's going to be a key part of language. They will ask you, will you be my wife? That phrase, remember that phrase. Your spirit is not going to ask you to marry yourself, because that is your higher consciousness. Your spirit isn't, somebody else's spirit may ask you to marry them, but your spirit isn't necessarily going to ask you to marry them. They may have before, because again, when you raise frequency, you're vibrating at such a high love frequency, so it can make some spirits just be like, I'm enamored by you, and so forth, and you're just like, okay, calm down, it's just a frequency. But an entity will say, will you be my wife? Why? Because when a woman enters into a marital union, what that means is regular sex. Regular. Because you have caught that woman's heart enough for her to marry you. Because an entity is not going to go pay your bills. You know, like an entity has nothing to offer you except for kind words and so on. So if they can get into your head as a woman and make you kind of feel love for them, they will then generate that energy through you. They're triggering your emotions to generate energy so that when you have sex, they're going to suck up all your energy. They're just going to suck it all up. Now, I am definitely not saying don't have sex. When you are in the elevated levels and you have a suitable partner, like I'm married, I've got my husband, and we're both high frequency. So, but if you are like, do have sex, but just understand that you cannot let this entity enjoy it with you. Okay? Doesn't matter what they say, doesn't matter how they approach it. Do not let this entity, don't say, I will be your wife. Okay? Your words are very, very powerful. What you say will come into reality, especially in the ethereal. Now, what you say can materialize or come into, or you can manifest it into the material, but it takes more energy for that and a little bit more of time. However, in the ethereal, if you were to say, will you be my wife? Or if this thing asks you, will you be my wife? Because you have just been told and given visions of pure love, and they will incite that in you, and it'll feel really, really good. But as soon as you say, yes, I will be your wife, then they're going to say, okay, great, let's consummate the marriage. And this is all in the ethereal, right? And if you go, okay, they will literally trigger a feeling of an orgasm within you. Okay? It's very, very intense. So whether you actually have a partner or not makes no difference. Because if you have literally agreed to this, they can trigger the feeling of an orgasm. And if they trigger that and they then suck it in and use it, you could be the Virgin Mary and never have sex at all. Although she did, but anyway. You could be totally a maiden and never have had sex whatsoever. But they will still trigger that orgasmic feeling within you because you have agreed to it. You have given your consent to it. Through your words and through your will, you have said this is okay. And so you've just fed him. Now, that's how you're going to get an entity to feed off of you in terms of transfer of energy through orgasmic energy. Okay? The other way is going to be through food. Now, in no way, shape, or form am I telling you not to eat. Okay? Please do eat. Please eat. But what you will find is that as you raise frequency, your body will require less and less food. Because technically I'm at the frequency where I don't really need to eat. Or if I do eat, it's a very, technically it's a very small amount. So at the moment I eat for comfort. Because personally, you have to put your body through a certain stage of getting used to living off of your own energy versus having food energy. And I do like cake. And I like to have some cereal every now and then. And I eat food because I enjoy it. Because I want to, because I enjoy it. But I don't eat very much. So that's something that you're going to find. You need to start listening to your body as your energy increases. If you don't require food, if you don't feel like eating, don't eat. Because when you become gluttonous and you're eating, and I'm just going to say overeating, then the entity is going to work like how a parasite works in your body. So you know how you have a parasite there and you eat like loads and loads of foods, but you still lose weight and you don't understand why and you still feel terrible? It's because that parasite is taking that additional energy. Well, that's basically what is going to happen with your subconscious. Except for it's not that they're eating they're not taking the energy of the food itself, but the food itself, when you're vibrating so high and you're putting in a lower frequency food in your body, it lowers your vibration. Okay? So it stops you from progressing too quickly. So it's almost like your subconscious, and when you are overeating, it is putting a cap on your frequency so that you don't raise high enough that you can burn it off automatically. But so you stay in the sweet zone level where it can survive. Now, if it can survive for a longer period, it means that it has more opportunity to get you to have an orgasm, to get you to think negatively, to do these kinds of things. So when you're overeating, it just keeps you lower, it's like trying to boil water for a cup of tea, except for every 5 minutes you keep adding cold water. And the cold water just leaves your tea water warm, and you never get to the boiling point where you can have a freaking cup of tea. You always have this like lukewarm bit of water. So that's what the subconscious wants you to do when it comes to food and overeating. So what you may find is that as you raise frequency really, really high, as soon as you stop listening to your body, and let's say you indulge, they're gonna jump right on that, and they're gonna try to make connections in your brain that are going to assist with your overeating. They're gonna give you cravings for everything that you haven't even had in so long, and they're gonna be like, yeah, eat it all, and they're gonna encourage you to do so. Be like, no, it's fine, that's cool. And then as you're doing that, you'll feel lower in frequency and vibration, and that'll make you irritable, and that will then make you susceptible to number 3, which is negative thinking or confusion. Now, it is not, and I'll have to say, it is not just your subconscious entity that is created. You also have a conscious body entity that will also be created, and the two work hand in hand together. Now, if you are doing these, if you are having a lot of orgasmic energy and you are overeating and not drinking enough water, like, by the way, you're going to need a hell of a lot more water when you get up to these levels. Your body will literally, you're vibrating so fast that you need to keep adding water in order to stay functional, right? So, like, how many, like 2 or 3 liters of water per day is what you're going to need to keep yourself vibrating nicely. So you don't have a lot of food, but you drink a lot, and you feel just fine. So by the way, like, I'm just letting you guys know, like, in no way or shape or form am I saying you need to starve yourself. You should never feel hungry, okay? You should never feel hungry or lack of energy. So if you do feel hungry or that you are lacking energy, just eat. Just eat. Just do what your body wants you to do. But when you've had enough, stop. That's all. And drink a lot of water. And when we get to this point, we don't survive just off of water and a little bit of food for the sake of losing weight or aesthetics. It is just doing what your body feels is right. Okay, so I really have to, because I don't want anybody to come in here and think like, oh wow, you know, she's advocating not to eat anything, or it's like, no, definitely, please eat, enjoy your food, and enjoy life with the food and everything, but just don't overeat, just don't overdo it. Whatever your body's calling for, however that may be, just don't overdo it. You may require a lot of food. A lot of guys require a lot more food, but anyway. So if you're doing these things, if you're succumbing to the food thing and you're succumbing to the sexual energy, then the negative thinking and confusion is going to start. The negative thinking starts because you're not feeling as good as you were. Okay, so negative thoughts come in. Your conscious body then will put in confusion. The what if this, and should I do this, or should I? And as soon as you start to get confused, that leads you back into the cycle of negative thinking. When you're lost and you don't know where to go. So then you start doubting yourself. And then you start doubting yourself, and that feeds both of these entities with you being in the state of confusion. But you got to think, it's not just like being in a state of confusion in the lower matrix level 1. When you're in a state of confusion at these levels, there's that saying, as above, so below. Okay? If you get confused in this level, that means you are giving away a shitload of energy to these entities. Okay? Because if you're all the way up here and someone's here, if you have a negative thought or you're giving away energy, this person could have a negative thought and they'll take this much energy. They'll just take the little sliver of energy. If you have a negative thought, as above, so below, you're going to have this much energy taken from you. Okay? So that's why I'm like, when you get into the cycle of thoughts, you're going to drop real quickly. And that is what these subconscious and conscious programs and entities want. They want to drop you right back down to level 1, where they can manage and maintain you. So they can still take the energy they need over a very long period of time. That's why we have so many people who go through years of bad spells. And they go through years of addiction, years of depression, years of mental issues like bipolarism and so forth. We go through years and years and years of these things because your programs like to keep you at this level. But when you are raised so high, you sort these things out really quickly, so that leaves them less energy to take from you. But if they can manage to get you to think negatively or get you back into that cycle, shoot, they're going to cash in really big, really big on you. So you've really got to get this part under control really quickly and be very solid in who you are, what you are, and know your ability and know your power. And that's how you're gonna get rid of that bugger. So negative thinking. Now, when it comes to the orgasmic energy, I just wanted to let you know as well, it does not matter if you don't have sex very often right now. It does not matter. Like if you're just like, oh, I'm raising frequency so fast, I'm just gonna focus on me, everything's cool, like I'm not even worried. Kulipup, don't worry. I don't even have a man. It's fine. Or I don't even have a girlfriend or a husband or a wife or whatever. It's fine. Like, this entity ain't going to get me this way. Do not underestimate your subconscious and conscious programs as they are. It does not matter if you have a partner or not in this physical world. Because it's all the mental. It's all in the ethereal. So as soon as they get a connection to you, and when I say that they are going to say sweet words to you as a woman, I mean it's going to be like romance novel kind of sweet words, like literally sweep you up off your feet kind of sweet words. It's going to be, they are going to establish connections in your heart and your mind and your brain that literally incite so much love that you will have for them. To the point where if you were to lose them, you would mourn it, right? And you would feel kind of lost, because that's the kind of strong connections they are making within your brain and connecting to your heart. So when you have that kind of strong connection, it doesn't matter. And when they can physically incite a physical feeling of an orgasm, you will literally come to a point where you'll be like, you know what? I'm fine without a man. That's fine. And that entity, yeah, if you had a boyfriend or a husband, or if you're a guy and you had a girlfriend, trust me, it would be a lot easier to release this energy and for them to absorb large amounts in a very short space of time. However, they are just fine if they want to trigger an orgasm. Sorry, I'm like, if they want to trigger an orgasm in you to get their energy, they'll do it too. So again, does not matter. And even if you don't have a direct contact or direct line of communication with your spirit, which is how your entity will then speak to you, then you're literally going to feel feelings anyway. Because just because I can't speak to you doesn't mean that they won't go into your brain and just be like, connect this, snip that, blah, blah, blah. Excellent. Now I have my own little puppet here that I can progress with. So that is something you really, really got to take. Like, don't underestimate it. I know when I'm speaking about entities and so forth, I can be very like, la 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 la, nonchalant, but that's only because I've went through all of this. I've went through the inner work required. I've went through the countless hours, days, and weeks of deduction, trying to figure out from the bare, smallest little frequency difference, because there's very, very subtle differences, to understand what this thing is. So I can get you all of this information and break it down to you in this way, so that you can understand it and don't underestimate it, because this is where there's not very many people who have reached beyond the seventh gate. And I know that only because to reach beyond, or to reach the seventh gate and beyond, there can, Highlander, there can be only one. That means that you are the primary consciousness to all energy. Okay, and there can only be one primary consciousness. I've done this. And that is why I am the guide to your spirit. Versus, nobody's my guide, I am my own guide. But I'm the guide to your spirit. Because I am the prime consciousness. Because I've passed that seventh gate and so forth and everything like that. So anyway, the information I'm giving you here, it is, whether you take it on board or not, makes no difference. Because these entities, this is exactly what they're going to do. Whether you are aware of it or not, whether you believe it or not, doesn't matter. This is what they're going to do. And you will simply just feel the consequence of it if you don't snap into it and just really try to focus and understand what's going on. This is another reason why I tell so many people, like, technically, yeah, I can get rid of your subconscious program for you. It ain't nothing but a thing for me. Because normally when I'm speaking to your subconscious program or your entity that's with you, they've already conceded to me. They've already said, I will back off. I will not even worry about you, because they know I will simply get rid of them. However, I can't get rid of everybody's subconscious program, because you need to learn how to recognize what it's doing, so that when you elevate, because each time you go up a frequency, a new one is created, because it needs to match your energy. A new one is created. And if you don't know, if you can't figure these parts out, it just means that you'll raise frequency, but you won't. But when the new one is created and it's stronger than the last one, and it has more abilities to manipulate this and that than the last one, you're going to drop in frequency so freaking fast. And you're going to be like, I don't know where my life went. So that's why I'm like, I will do so much, but you really, really, really have to take this information in and start applying it and start using it. So that's going to be something you definitely need to do. Okay. So that's how it lives. Okay, and that's the goals that your entity is going to face. That's what it's going to face.